Thank you for joining us with Voices for All Abilities. I'm Whitney. I'm excited today to be here because we have a really special guest. And we just got done with our IEP talk, our second one for Prump.
Yeah.
And that went really well. And I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
What sparked you to be an advocate?
Great question. I started my journey with my oldest daughter, who would be about 28. I didn't even know anything about IEPs or 504 plans or disability. So not any different than I think most families is that I became an advocate out of need. I realized that there was a lot that I didn't know about disabilities, and I wanted to help my oldest daughter as much as I could and learn. And then when our second daughter was born, Alexis, that gave me a whole nother opportunity to learn more. My husband really encouraged me a lot. He introduced to me that there were a set of laws in place for our kids with disabilities. And then our fourth child was born, and I had another opportunity to get even more familiar with advocacy. And then I was inspired once I learned, oh, wow, I really love this, right? I have a passion not only to help my own children, but I saw a lot of families and moms, particularly, who were struggling like myself to understand the process. And I saw the frustration, and I felt inspired and led to help. And I've been doing that now for well over 15 years.
I love that. You really inspired me. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. My son wouldn't be as far progressed as he was if it wasn't for you. And you really shown me what it takes to build a community and to be an advocate for kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited for the future and what we're going to bring to Prump.
I believe in you. You have already done a lot in a short period of time.
Was there a defining moment that made you say I need to speak up for others, not even just with your own child? Because we can be an advocate for our own kids, but what made you do it for everybody?
For everybody. Quite honestly, when I think with our second daughter, when we moved to Nevada, she was entering kindergarten. She's now going to be a senior in the fall. And that's when we really started our autism journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting at her first IEP meeting in Nevada. And there were, I think, about 20 folks at the meeting, largest IEP meeting that I had been to at that time. And I felt maybe a little intimidated.
Yeah.
I really thought, gosh, everyone here is here to help. Why does it take so many people to help?
I know. Right? That's how I felt too at my first one. I was like very intimidated by how many people were in the first IEP meeting and who everybody was. I couldn't tell you their names at this moment either.
Nope. And I didn't even.
And that's kind of what I found too, since I've been on this journey, that I had people reaching out to me and I'm like, I'm lost myself. Like, I'm figuring this out too. Like, this was a couple years ago. Yeah. And I was like, and it just sparked everything for me to start this in my mind and then start the special needs support group for Prump, because I didn't find anywhere where I could like write my thoughts down in Prump, like about what I'm going through, or find another special needs mom or support needs mom. And I'm like, can someone relate to me? And then we built the group in a day, and it's grown to over 200 members, which I think of that number and I'm like, I can't imagine 200 people sitting in my room. Right. And that's how many people are looking to me for help, advice, and guidance and support. And it's amazing. It's insane.
It's a village, right? We all have busy lives. Yeah. So I think social media is a great way for us to just kind of put it out there in one place, and the families can go there and kind of scroll through and be like, oh, there's an event, or, oh, there's lessons over here for this. And it's important that I think we make that information available to families, because we don't know where everyone is on their journey.
Yeah.
Right? Where they are in the process. That maybe they just got a diagnosis last week, or maybe they're, like the grandma we met today who has lots of experience, right?
Yeah.
And so just connecting families together is so important.
It is. It really is. And I find that, especially with me having 5 kids, the best way I feel like I can get out there is by also having my Facebook group pages and now having this to be like, this is what I'm doing, this is what we're doing, have that accountability and people can look at, because I can't be everywhere in the community.
Right.
As much as I want to be, you know. I mean, you see, I have 5 kids, a house, you know, husband who works, and I can't be everywhere I want to be. And so this really brings a place for people to come and be like, okay, I know where to find her. I know where to find that information.
Yes.
So I think that's really important. So what do you wish that parents knew before their first meeting?
Before their
initial? Yeah, before the very first one that they ever had. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Do I have to narrow it down to one?
You can name a few.
Okay. Because I get very excited about that question. It's a great question. I would encourage families to go into the meeting knowing how important they are, right? They are the most important person at that meeting. Unless your child is of the age where they can run their own IEP meeting, right? The parent is the most important person there. Really key. The second piece is you have the ability and the right to participate on the same level as the other members who are there. You're that important. Your input and participation is super important. So if you have a concern or input in that IEP meeting, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for things to be written down so that you can remember them after the meeting ends, because there's a lot of new information.
Yeah.
And it's also important to know that you can bring whoever you would like for support, right? Yeah. With you to the meeting. Yeah, so you don't have to go alone. Yeah, what do they say? Don't IEP alone?
Yeah, they do say that. Because I didn't know that. I just thought that I go in there and that's my job, or me and my husband. And I shouldn't take anybody, you know. I don't ever think I was made to feel like I could bring somebody at the time.
Right.
Until I heard about an advocate and all that. But I didn't know you could bring like your outside speech therapy, your ABA therapist, whatever therapy you're using for your child. You should bring them in. No questions asked. They can't ask to make you sign anything, right?
Correct. Yeah, you don't have to notify them. If you want to, of course, by all means, let them know I'm bringing a couple of guests with me, but you're not required to.
Okay. That's good to know. So how do you handle schools or districts that push back against services that you're trying to help parents?
Another great question. So the spirit, I always say the spirit of the IEP team, right? And I think the intention of the laws that are in place to support kiddos with IEPs is that it's collaborative, right? Because we're all working together for the child. So when a parent makes a request and I'm there to assist on that request or an understanding, right? Make sure the parent understands their rights. If the school team is pushing back and maybe saying, no, we don't want to write that in right now, or we want to wait, or something other than yes. There's a couple things that families can do. You can agree as a team, right? And these are the required members of the IEP team. You can agree to sort of table that, right?
Right.
And then you can put it in your parental concerns that you would like to revisit it.
Okay.
That way it kind of says in the IEP that you asked for it, it was discussed, but that you're going to revisit it, right? And ideally it would be soon.
Yeah.
Okay? Or if you feel very strongly about it and you would like to really get a yes or no from the team, right? If they're unwilling to say yes and they're really like a no, then you can disagree to the IEP based on that. And then they will send you a formal notice that says that they declined what you were asking for and the supporting reasons why. And then you'll have that for your records, right? And it's good to get that to make sure you get it because you might be asking for that again in the future.
What are some common things you see that parents or guardians make, like mistakes during the IEP?
I think mistakes might be made because they're unfamiliar with their rights, right?
Yeah.
And how important they are. They don't realize they're VIP.
Yeah,
right?
Very interesting. I love that. I love to use that. There was another thing you said to me that really stuck out to me. I'm trying to remember what you said. The school has obligations, and there was another part to that. What was it that you said?
Yeah, so parents have rights. Parents and students have rights, and school districts have obligations. So that big packet of rights that they give to you on the green paper, those are the procedural safeguards, otherwise known as parent and student rights for students with IEPs and 504s, but specifically for IEPs. And so kind of really familiarizing yourself with those rights is really key. And so families, if you're not familiar with your rights, then you're going through that IEP meeting a little blind, right?
Yeah.
And not really fully understanding your options. When I started advocating, one of the big pieces that really stood out for me is my job as an advocate is to make families aware of their options and to educate them to ask better quality questions so they can get better quality answers.
How do you approach families that they feel like they've been ignored or like gaslit from the school and the district?
So the way that we can assist with that, and that is very common, it's a very common concern, is that we offer a no-cost consultation. So we can discuss some of those concerns there. If they would like for us to help at an actual IEP meeting, then we highly suggest that we have a consultation as well so that I can get your top 3 concerns. And then sometimes there's misinformation that's been given to families before we come to help and even at an IEP meeting. And that's where an advocate can help actually at the meeting by saying, actually it's our understanding that it's different. And then we can talk after the meeting. We try to, at the meeting, really focus on the needs of the student. I try to steer away from being like in a corrective action with the school team because that doesn't build rapport and collaboration. So we usually try to kind of like just focus on the need and then we can deal with some of those other corrective pieces typically after the meeting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yep.
So what should a parent do if their child's school refuses to evaluate or give services?
Well, that's a really good one. And I've heard that actually kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Here in So if the parent comes forward and asks, they have a suspicion of a disability, or maybe you have a medical diagnosis, right? So you know there's a disability. The question is, does that suspicion of a disability or a medical diagnosis of a disability impact the child in the school setting? Yep. So we encourage families to put their request in writing. A lot of families will just do it verbally, right? Because they're just like, I really think my kid's struggling and we need help and can you evaluate? Yeah. And they'll just go, because they don't really know where to go. And then they'll just get a no, like a verbal no. And then that's kind of where it lives, right? So what we suggest is put that request in writing. It's very simple. It really can be one sentence, right?
Yeah.
I'm requesting my child to receive a comprehensive evaluation to determine the need for special education services. That's it.
And
you send that off by email. We like to say send it to 2 folks. That way it goes to 2 different people.
Yeah.
You can do it in person, right? Make sure that you get a copy. When they ask them to sign it, that they received it, and then just get a copy so that you have a timestamp of when you made that request. The school must Either say, yes, we will evaluate, or no, we won't. And if they say no, they have to give you that notice detailing why. At that point, you have other options, such as independent evaluations, and there's more options.
Which is an IEE.
That's an IEE, yes.
How can parents become more confident as advocates for themselves, for their children?
Mm-hmm. You know, practice. Yeah. And writing down your thoughts and like your goals for that meeting.
Yeah.
I used to go in and be like, okay, I'm going to address all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I've overwhelmed my school team. And I've realized you can have lots of IEP meetings. And so go for the big ones, right? Go for the ones that need to be addressed now.
Okay.
Top 3. Start with those. Get those done, right? You have your working list, then call another revision meeting, right? And say, okay, thanks so much for doing these 3 things. I got a couple more concerns. Yeah, kind of break it down.
And that's what I like to do too. Start small and work your way up to
yes
that. Because if you're just throw so much at once, it's not all going to be addressed.
No.
Right?
Yeah, and it's hard. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's why it's taken a while to even get my son's IEPs to where they are now.
Yep.
So what are the biggest barriers to equity in special education today?
Let's see. I would say for children that have an IEP, equity can be tough, for sure, depending on maybe what school district you go to, right?
Yeah.
What school you go to. The availability of good information, the availability of services within the school district. Knowing that if your child has a need, that the school district, they might say, well, we would love to provide that, but we just don't have it. Knowing, right, having the information that you can push that needle, right? Yeah. But there's definitely difference in services. I work in 4 states. There's 17 districts in Nevada alone, I believe. It's still 17. And there's a huge discrepancy between Clark County and Nye County School District. Right?
And do they have different laws in each county, or is it just state laws? That's something I get confused about.
So there's federal. So for IEPs, there's federal law. There's state laws that support the federal. Okay. So they can't decrease services. They can only support and increase the state. And then there's policy. So school district policy, which most often is voted and passed on by your school board, right? And then there's another level, which I like to say is the school level. There's a little folklore in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like maybe you've heard, here we do it this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Like that. Mm-hmm.
Hear stuff like that. Just ask for the policy, then ask for the state law, and then check it on the federal.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. So it's just like the chain of command.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could change one thing about the IEP process nationwide, what would it be?
That's tough. But the first thing, I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't want to narrow it down to one as like the only priority. But the one thing that comes to mind is I would love to have a certain amount of time set aside. Because I've noticed in the past 2 years, we've had very short meetings, like 20 minutes. School teams are like, I'm sorry, we don't have coverage. We only have 20 minutes today. And then we have to come back several times, over the course to get that IEP done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's weeks in between, and it's really hard to remember what we talked about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if you're a good note taker. So it'd be really nice to have something in place that says that there's, a certain amount of time that could be decided upon by the team.
What advice would you give somebody who wants to be an advocate?
Yep, great question. I would say find a mentor. Okay, volunteer, do some free IEPs, attend as parent support. Make sure it's something that you're really still passionate about once you start doing more. A lot of people think that IEPs are like always intense, and they aren't. We do hundreds of IEPs a year. And I have some really, quite simple IEPs, agreeable.
And we are trying to get a clinic out here for you to do for 3 hours.
Yes.
To teach parents and anybody who wants to really learn the IEP process.
Yes.
And does that, help towards becoming an advocate?
Of course, yeah. It's a deep dive IEP training. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I know I definitely want to attend that, and I know I have some people I've talked to who want to do that as well. How do you stay encouraged when it feels like the system isn't changing fast enough for your kids?
That's another great question. I think that I've changed as an advocate over the years. Mm-hmm. When I first started, my kids were very young, and I'm still just as excited, but I'm a little older now. And so my style has changed, and I have realized that sometimes listening to the IEP team, you will gain a lot more information by listening and asking very specific questions. So once you become more comfortable in your advocacy, you realize that through that IEP meeting, because you have your top 3, right, that you're working toward, you're going to let some things, you're not going to let them go. You're just not going to address them today, and that's okay. Because it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? And you're trying to get yeses to the things that are really important to you. And it's okay if you get some potential no's on some smaller pieces because they're not in the top 3. So style, being patient, really being collaborative, asking the other team members, well, what do you think? Bringing them into the conversation so that you stay collaborative. I like to say, hopefully we're at a round table because we're all working together rather than being on the other side of the table.
Yeah. And I feel like the school can feel that advocates are against them, but I see it as the opposite. I feel like we're just all, trying to do the best for the child. They feel intimidated. And what I could say to educators that's not that at all. We want to be on a team, and we want you to be, what I like to say in the team, are you going to be on the side of the successful side of my son's journey, or are you going to be on the side that said, no, he can't do it? And when you're watching him graduate, where are you sitting on what side? Because I don't want to be like, oh, I didn't think he'd be here today. I didn't think he could do a speech at his graduation. You want to be on that side where you encourage that child and that you were part of that success journey for them, and you're invited to that graduation, you're invited to that wedding possibly. And so that's what I really try to tell educators is that we're not against you, and we know you have a workload of stuff, and you should be paid football salaries. I'll go stand and tell them, yes, pay them what they deserve. But we're all just here working together, and it's a learning opportunity. If you don't know something as an educator, which I know as a CNA, I didn't know everything. I had to learn from everything. I had to learn from people. You don't learn everything in school.
No.
It's, a lot of things are hands-on. And but once you, take the time, to do better, you can know better and do better.
Correct.
Things will change and be so much better for you and for the child, for the children, and everybody. But so just going back to feeling like educators were against them and we're not.
Oh, not at all. We're relying on them.
Yeah.
We need their help. Yes. They're the implementers.
Yeah.
Right? We really, and you can start some of that conversation saying, you're the most important person for reading here. I need your help. help me understand. How do we move him forward?
Yeah.
You know, what are you doing that's really working? How can I help as a
Yep.
parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, what teacher, they all love the help, right? They
Yeah.
need the help. They're massively overworked, right? And IEPs are hard, right? Because they're individualized.
Yep.
Yep.
And, you know, I would think they would know. I don't know how many kids or how that works with IEPs in the classroom, but I would think they would be able to know the ins and outs of each of their IEP. I know I have a sister that is a teacher, and she tells me she knows the ins and outs of every single one of her kiddos. Right?
Yep.
And she is an autism mom as well, so.
I don't know how they do that, but
I know. I don't know either.
I mean, incredible. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
None of us know everything.
No. Every time I go into an IEP meeting, I learn something from someone else there.
Oh, I love that.
You know, and that's how we can pass that along to the next person that we're with, right?
Yeah. So where do you see your advocacy work in 5 years from now?
Well, I'm going to school to be a psychologist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep. So,
incredible.
It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's really something that I really love. I love, you know, MDT meetings where we get to kind of read about all the assessment results. And so I decided to take that on. And we also are expanding. So we'll be bringing on advocates. Yep, associate level. So I'm excited to expand that.
Yeah.
So we can help more families with the focus on Nevada. And probably we'll do a little bit of Utah work as well, you know. So hopefully in 5 years, I won't be a complete crazy lady. I have some personal goals aside from my professional. So one of my personal goals is one of my daughters wants to do an international. She wants to go to school internationally. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to apply to Oxford and see if I can do a master's, part of my master's program there. Oh, wow. So we'll see, you know, that's like a lofty goal, mm-hmm. but she wants to go and she was like, can you be my roommate? I'm like, oh, I would absolutely love to be your roommate. That would be super cool for a semester. Your
oldest daughter?
That's my third, yes. So
that would be awesome. I love that she's like so encouraged with you to do it with you.
Yep. She wants to be an attorney. So,
wow.
This week, you know,
yeah,
so we'll see. You know, it changes.
Yeah, once you get into the school, it's
right.
like, ooh, I really
want this. Right, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Any other big projects? Those are pretty big.
Yeah, I'm working with I work with several law firms. Yeah. But there's one in particular that is really active in creating legislative change. So we have a hot list of things that we would like to advocate for, you know, at the state of Nevada level to create some big changes, you know, to help families. Yeah. It's really important that families kind of, you know, get together and learn those Nevada laws and how we can create some change. So that's on the list as well.
How can people better support you in Wynn Advocacy? And what does that look like?
Oh, that's a nice question. Yeah. You know, just spread the word. Let Nye County know that there's help here. Yeah. Right? And we're organizing, right, mm-hmm. to bring that help to families. I did not realize how much help was needed here.
I know. I almost feel like, am I enough for this? Like, I need to recruit some more people to become advocates and support for the parent and
yep.
and having them go to you, which I don't know how you stay so organized between 4 states, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how you do it.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've grown with your children because right now, like I'm in the part where my kids are still very young, so
yes,
it can be
hard.
Did you notice it got easier as your babies got older for you to?
It did. Yeah. You know, the IEPs are like I'm maintaining at this point.
Yeah.
But each transition, elementary to middle, big transition, middle to high, right? I'm going to have them all in high school in the fall.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have 3 in high school. So that's going to be, that'll be really cool, actually.
Yeah, that will be.
But yeah, you're in that tough stage, right? Because they really need a lot of your focus and time, and it's important to try to find some balance, right?
Yeah, been back-to-back therapies. And then
I remember those days.
Yeah, we're still in those early stages, which I'm grateful for because I was able to learn this pretty quickly. Because some parents, it's 8th grade, and we have a child that is set in their ways, and we have the school that's set in their ways with their IP, and they know this child more than a brand new advocate coming in does. So it gets harder. So I am thankful that I did learn pretty quickly and had a lot of support in that area, and found your group, and had my sister who's an educator to talk to, and all of those things, because I don't know where I would be if I didn't. And that's scary to think about. So even though I am in a tougher, age, I'm grateful for it that we're here. It's not everybody gets to be here.
Yeah. And that's so well said. I would say, your journey is your own, and my journey is my own, right? As a mom to kids that just need additional support. But anyone who's watching, share this video, right? Just like wildly, right?
Yes,
share it to everybody.
So what do you hope people take away from our podcast today, and how do you want as our
know that there's help here, right? There's advocacy help, right? You're a nonprofit, which is amazing, right? And there's folks that we even met with today who are supporting. So, there's really, it's limitless. You guys have already done so much. I didn't realize how connected you were as a community.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to watch you guys grow. You've done so much in such a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I would say that anyone that wants to help, right?
Yeah.
I think a town hall meeting would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I just need to know where I start that with, and what building and all of that. That's kind of the stuff where I'm leaning on other people to kind of help me with, like, where do I hold these events without it being, so much money or whatnot, because we're just starting, and I get to that point and show everybody what we're about. And so I'm starting with what I have, and we're hoping to have we're going to have our camp July 28th through August 1st. That's in the works, so we're really excited about that. Stephanie's giving me some great advice with that, and I had a small list. Now I have a big list, but no, it's good because I want to do it the right way. I don't want to just, half it. Whatever that word is. I don't want to not do it right. If I'm going to do something, I want to put my all into it for the community. Yeah. And so we're excited, and I appreciate you coming on today. And I know you got to get back to Vegas. Yeah. And I appreciate you so much, and I know the prompt. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.